Welcome to the deep dive. You give us the sources, we deliver the knowledge you need. Today, we're doing a deep dive into parent-teacher partnerships. It's one of those ideas everyone nods along to, right? Like, yes, absolutely crucial for kids, the bedrock of student success, but actually building those strong partnerships,
Mm.
especially with all the diversity in families, different schedules, languages, just life challenges, that feels much, much harder in practice.
It really does. It's that gap between knowing something is important and, well, making it happen effectively day to day. And our sources today are great because they get past the usual talk about just communicating more. We're aiming to give you a really practical roadmap here. We're looking at foundational strategies that definitely work according to research.
Okay.
Then we'll investigate the impact or maybe the surprising lack of impact of some newer communication tech. We
Mhm.
also need to identify the systemic barriers, the things that get in the way structurally. And finally, critically, we have to clarify the legal side, the absolute high stakes when it comes to special education involvement. That's non-negotiable.
Exactly. So our mission today is to pull all this together. We want you to walk away with a really clear, sort of multifaceted picture of what effective partnership actually looks like. And crucially, what specific actions actually create leverage for students, moving way beyond just the big sale or the sign-up sheet. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the core idea. The research is pretty clear on this. It isn't just about parents being involved in some vague sense. It's specifically about two-way communication, that consistent sharing of relevant information about how a student is doing, what their needs are.
Right, information flowing both ways. And when teachers and parents both have that up-to-date knowledge, you see this positive cycle kick in. Better academic results, definitely.
Yeah, and improved behavior too, right?
Improved behavior, and importantly, a boost to the student's own self-image. They feel like everyone's on their team supporting them.
That makes sense. So it hinges on collaboration.
Entirely. And that collaboration needs trust. It's built on understanding the roles. Parents provide that essential emotional, sometimes financial support, setting expectations at home. Teachers create the safe, nurturing, and, instructionally strong environment at school. Success really depends on everyone seeing it as respectful and genuinely shared effort.
So if that's the why, how do schools actually make this two-way flow happen? Our sources talk about a whole range of traditional methods. And they stress that because families are so diverse, different work hours, maybe housing issues, language differences, you can't just pick one method.
No, one size definitely does not fit all. You absolutely need a variety of strategies. So that means keeping up with formal things like parent conferences, maybe school community councils.
The more official channels.
Right. But also the simpler things like weekly folders with student work going home, regular phone calls, email. You need that mix.
But just listing methods isn't enough, is it? The sources get into what makes communication good communication. High quality.
Yes, exactly. Because quality can be a buzzword. What does it actually mean in practice? The research points to four key things. First, initiation. Teachers should be proactive. Reach out early, like an introductory call or a welcome letter as soon as you know who's in your class. Don't wait for trouble.
Get ahead of it.
Second, timeliness. If a problem does come up, deal with it quickly. Waiting just lets frustration build on both sides. Third, consistency. Feedback needs to be frequent, ongoing, especially about daily work, homework, not just a once-a-year report card conversation.
Okay, proactive, timely, consistent. What's the fourth?
Clarity. The information has to be in a form and, crucially, a language that families can actually understand. That might mean translating things or just avoiding confusing school jargon.
One of the simplest but maybe most powerful strategies they mentioned was the unsolicited positive phone call.
Oh, absolutely. It's brilliant because it's unexpected.
Right.
Parents often brace themselves when the school calls, right? So getting a call just to say, hey, your child did something great today, or I've seen real effort here, it completely changes the dynamic.
It lowers the defenses immediately.
Exactly. It builds that bank of goodwill, that trust. So when you do need to call about a problem later, the conversation starts from a much better place. It's not automatically adversarial.
But I could hear teachers thinking, great, one more thing to add to my plate. Do the sources address that feeling of being overwhelmed?
They do, actually. They frame it less as an extra task and more as an efficiency strategy. Think about it. A few minutes spent on positive outreach early on can save hours of difficult, reactive conversations later when things have gone sour. It's really an investment in a smoother, less stressful year.
That's a good way to look at it. An investment. Okay, so that covers the traditional ground. But what about modern solutions? We've moved from phone calls to, the promise of mobile tech. Lots of schools are using apps now, like that school CNXT app they studied in New York City. It combines school-wide stuff with personalized messages. Sounds perfect, right?
It really does sound like the answer, the
Yeah.
scalable solution everyone was hoping for. But the results from that big randomized field trial were, well, surprising, and not entirely in a good way.
Ooh, how so?
Well, the study found that giving schools free access to this app did significantly improve how teachers felt about communication. Teachers reported higher satisfaction, felt more connected.
Okay, so the teachers liked it. That's something.
It is. But here's the twist. The app had absolutely no effect on how parents perceived the quality of communication. None. And maybe more importantly, zero impact on student outcomes. Didn't change achievement, attendance, behavior, anything measurable for the kids.
Wait, really? Teachers felt better, but it didn't change anything for parents or students. That's wild.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that even with the app, administrators said their main methods were still letters home and phone calls.
That's right. Despite the shiny new tool, the old standbys were still dominant. It's a real paradox.
Okay, we need to dig into the black box here. The usage data must tell us something, like who was using it and when.
It does offer clues. Usage patterns showed staff activity peaked around 3:0 to 4:00 p.m., end of the school day. Parents, interestingly, peaked much later, 7:0 to 8:00 p.m., which suggests they were trying to engage just outside typical school hours.
And were parents actually initiating conversations
Yeah.
or just receiving messages?
That's fascinating, too. Parents started 53% of the conversations. 53%. That shows a clear demand, right? Parents want this information, this dialogue.
They're actively reaching out. So what were staff sending? Was it all problem focused?
Not at all, actually. The vast majority, 72% of staff messages were just neutral logistics, assignments due, tracking permission slips, that kind of thing. Another 19% was positive updates on progress, praise. Only about 9% dealt with negative issues or behavior concerns.
So it wasn't just a complaint channel.
Hmm.
Parents were initiating, staff were mostly sending neutral or positive info. Why the null effect then? Why didn't it move the needle?
The researchers concluded it wasn't about the technology itself being flawed, it was about the implementation. Simply dropping a tool into the mix isn't enough. The key failure was that administrators didn't set up clear school-wide expectations for using it as the standard platform.
Ah, so it just became another channel to check.
Exactly. If parents still have to monitor the app, plus email, plus check the backpack for flyers, plus answer phone calls, it doesn't simplify things. It might even make communication more fragmented and confusing. Communication fatigue sets in.
So the tech wasn't the silver bullet.
Not on its own, no. The system around it wasn't ready.
Okay, so if just buying a new app isn't the answer, where should schools focus their energy and resources instead? The sources seem to argue for shifting from tools to systems, building capacity.
Precisely. And they introduced this idea called the dual capacity building framework. The key word there is dual. It stresses that you have to build capacity, the skills and confidence in both school staff and families simultaneously.
Why both?
Because think about it, if you run great workshops for parents, get them all skilled up and ready to partner, but the school staff aren't trained or culturally competent or even welcoming.
Then the parents hit a brick wall.
Exactly. The initiative fails because the school side wasn't ready. You need to build capacity on both sides of the equation.
Okay, so what kind of capacity are we talking about? The sources mentioned the 4 Cs. Can you break those down?
Sure, the 4 Cs apply to both staff and families. First is capabilities. For staff, that means things like cultural competency, relationship skills. For families, it might be understanding the school system, knowing how to advocate. Second, connections. Building those collaborative networks, trust, linking families to each other and to school staff.
Okay, capabilities, connections.
Third is cognition. This is about developing shared beliefs and values, like shared high expectations for the student, common goals for their learning. And fourth is confidence. That's about increasing self-efficacy for both groups, helping teachers believe they can partner effectively, and helping parents believe their involvement matters.
Capabilities, connections, cognition, confidence. Got it. It's a comprehensive framework. But does it work in practice? Stanton Elementary in D.C. sounds like a compelling case study. They were struggling, right?
They really were. It was a low-performing school. Initial attempts at parent engagement, like generic workshops, were failing badly. Hostility was common. Parent conference attendance was abysmal, like 12%.
12%. Wow. So what changed?
They brought in training on two specific models. One was the Parent-Teacher Home Visit Project, or PTHVP. The other was the Academic Parent-Teacher Team Model, APTT. The home visits especially seem to be a game changer.
How so?
Well, some parents initially were really wary. Like one parent mentioned being scared it was Child Protective Services calling, highly defensive. But the home visit, done respectfully, focusing on hopes and dreams for the child, completely changed that perception. It built trust where there was none.
And you have that quote from the parent.
Yes, I'm not defensive anymore. I really appreciate that. By my not being defensive, it allows me to take in information. That says it all, doesn't
It
it?
really does. That shift allowed the academic focus of the APTT meetings to actually land. Parents were ready to engage with learning goals.
And the results were dramatic. Attendance at those APT meetings jumped from that low 12% up to 55%. And the academic impact. Math scores went up by over 18 percentage points. Reading scores up by over 9 points.
18 points in math.
Yes.
That's huge. It
Right.
really proves the link, doesn't it? Quality engagement, focusing on learning, delivers real results, not just better feelings, but actual academic gains.
Absolutely. It's instructional leverage gained through relationships. And there's a related model mentioned, Kinder Academy Abriendo Portas Opening Doors. That one focuses more on building the family side of the capacity equation.
Tell me about that.
It's a 10-week course, often taught by parents from the community, which is key. It builds advocacy skills, confidence, reinforces that idea of parent as the child's first teacher. And the data showed parents felt significantly more capable, more ready to engage with the school effectively after going through it.
Okay, so those models show what's possible with intentional effort. Best practice, now we need to shift to an area where partnership isn't just best practice, it's the law, special education.
Exactly. This is where the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act idea comes in, and it sets a very high bar for parent involvement. It's a legal requirement, not a suggestion.
What does IDEA actually mandate regarding parents?
It requires schools to actively accommodate parents to ensure they can attend and participate in all meetings where decisions are made about their child's special education services. That means IEP meetings, the Individualized Education Program, meetings about functional behavioral assessments, FBAs, even disciplinary meetings if they relate to the disability.
And accommodate means what exactly? Being flexible.
Yes, it covers things like scheduling meetings at times parents can actually attend, providing interpreters if needed, offering different formats like phone or video conferencing if they can't be there in person. The school has to make a real effort.
So what happens if, say, school staff schedules conflict, or there's a deadline looming for paperwork? Does that take priority?
No, and this is where a key court case, Doug C. versus Hawaii from 2013, is really important. The court was crystal clear. The parent's right to be at the meeting takes priority over things like paperwork, renewal deadlines, or the convenience of staff schedules, period.
So the school can't just hold the meeting without the parent because it's easier for them, or because a deadline is approaching.
They absolutely cannot. If a meeting needs to be delayed to make sure the parent can be there, maybe the parent is sick, for example, then the student's current services just continue. Their eligibility doesn't just expire because of a scheduling issue.
That's a powerful protection for families.
It is. And the ruling went further. It stated that failing to properly accommodate the parent's participation in those key meetings is, by itself, a denial of the student's right to FAPE, a free, appropriate public education. Getting the parents' input after decisions have already been made isn't good enough. They must be part of the creation process for the plan. The law puts the parents squarely at the center. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways for you? We've seen this really clear contrast today. On one hand, just providing a new communication app, well, it made teachers feel a bit better, but it didn't actually change outcomes for parents or kids.
Right. Effort, but not effective effort in that case.
Whereas intentional systemic efforts, like those home visits, the APTT model, building that dual capacity, those did create real change. They shifted relationships. They were explicitly tied to learning goals.
Absolutely. And we also got that crucial clarification on special education. Parent participation isn't optional. It's a fundamental legal right with significant consequences if schools don't uphold it. So effective partnerships aren't just about being nice. They need to be linked to school improvement goals, backed by organizational support, and require staff to constantly work on their cultural responsiveness and ability to see the strengths families bring.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. That New York City study showed parents initiated over half, 53% of the app conversations. They were clearly trying to engage. And models like Abriendo Portas focus on building parent skills to advocate and share information more effectively. So What if schools shifted their focus instead of pouring all their energy into making communication easy, mainly for the school's processes? What if they focused all that energy on truly amplifying, listening to, and acting on the information parents are already trying so hard to share? Just something to think about. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.